So for our dot talk, very important that we kind of establish the rules, the routine, and every classroom can be different. Just to kind of let you know that silent signals are an important aspect of number talks. So silent signal meaning that if a student, a learner is giving me the signal, it means that they have something to share with me, that they've done some thinking, perhaps they want to share a strategy or articulate perhaps an answer depending on the question. I have said to students, if like this, it means they've got 3 strategies they'd like to share with me. All right. It's really moving away from the hand up, because there are a lot of students, perhaps in our spaces, that as soon as someone puts their hand up, they actually stop thinking because they think, oh, you know, so-and-so's got this. And so now I actually don't need to pay attention any longer. So silent signals are key. Another silent signal I'll use is me too. So if someone shares a strategy, I might actually say to the group, did anyone else have the same strategy? And it's a silent signal of a me too. So I'm communicating with students. I'm also wanting to see, if I don't see a majority of thumbs up, I have to take a step back and perhaps rethink my question. That the real goal of a number talk is that we want to invite students in, and I don't mean that we want it to be such an easy question for students developmentally, but I want to know that if I don't see a majority of thumbs up, I'm wondering in my mind why. Something else that I make it very, very known with students is that not having a thumb up does not mean I may not call on them. That every student is accountable for their thinking and for their learning. And again, I'm sure that you know your clients exceptionally well, and you might know some students who don't put a thumb up, and they might not think, hey, my thumb's not up. Mrs. Bush isn't going to call on me. And that is not the case. Perhaps I may ask them another question. Perhaps I might ask them, is there something about the number talk or the numbers or the quantity that they would like me to unpack for them? So it's about kind of having that type of conversation. I time myself. I talk a lot, and I have to be mindful of this. I also have to be mindful of the stamina of my learners. So I know I have in this space kindergarten to grade 8. So you have to know your learners and know, you know what, 5 minutes, that's a good day to have stamina, to focus on something. Maybe it's 7 minutes, maybe it's 8, but I absolutely know that I need to time myself because I can go on and on and on. And I've got educators in this space who would absolutely say that's true. So it's a timer, I'm looking at it, I kind of make sure that, you know, if I put it beside a student, I make sure that it's not bothering them, or that perhaps they're not looking at the time. I have tried a move where I've had a student, hey, can you tell me when, you know, it's 15 minutes? And I found the student, all they're doing is looking at the time and actually waiting to tell us to stop. So again, you'll have to kind of maneuver that, but time is super important, and understanding the stamina of your kids as well. All right, so we're gonna do a dot talk, and I'm gonna show you some dots that are behind the sheet actually. And there's 2 questions. How many dots and how did you see them? How many dots and how do you see them? I purposely went down, I purposely got out of the way. Sometimes I might even maneuver all the way to the back of the room because I want to see what the student is seeing. So I'm in essence kind of defronting the room. I actually want to get out of the way of the thinking. I saw a great deal of thumbs coming up, so I know that this is okay for me to proceed. Right. So thinking about different ways in order to record student thinking, I'm going to attempt to use these kind of small whiteboards in order to record some of your thinking. So how many dots and how did you see them? And I'm going to call upon a few peers to share their thinking. Hi, what's your name?
Nancy.
Hi, Nancy. How are you? I'm just gonna.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing all right, thanks. Okay, how did you see those dots?
I saw a 4, 3, 3, 2.
Tell me more about that. Where did you see? We'll start with the 4. Where did you see the 4?
The top grouping of 4.
The top grouping of 4, and I'm watching you gesture, and I just saw you do that. So and it's really important that I'm going to make sure that I'm monitoring your thinking. So the group of 4 is up here. Were they connected? Did you see them like almost like a border
Yeah,
around?
like a square.
Like a
Yeah, like a, on a dice or something.
on a dice. So Nancy, I'm proud to let you know that you are subitizing. And subitizing is a really great skill. I'm noticing I'm naming strategies here too. All right, and then you went on to say, so 4, and I believe I heard a 3, 3.
2 groups of 3.
2 groups of 3. And are you okay if I put a
Yes,
border around
that's
those? Thank you very much. Okay, and then filing with the last 2 at the bottom directly below. All right, and how many total dots are there?
I thought there were 12.
You thought there were 12. Why did you think there was 12?
Because I added 4 plus 3 plus 3 plus 2.
Okay, 4,
Is that
3,
right?
2, and kids will do that. They'll be like,
I
they there? So yes, indeed. All right, so believing there's, and I am just gonna take another strategy and I may come back and I wanna actually know how you combine those numbers together. Interested to know that. So I'm gonna do my best to find kind of a way to kind of keep that displayed there. And I've got a few here already created. And so another strategy, or actually, first of all, Nancy, Nancy's strategy, did anyone see that in a similar way? Me too. I'm seeing lots of me too's out there. All right. Did anyone happen to see a different strategy or a different way than Nancy? Did anyone see? Yes. Hi, Stacy. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Here we go. How did you see them, Stacy?
I saw a 3 at the top.
A 3 at the top. Okay. And so at the very, very top, would that be the top vertice?
Yes.
Okay. And these 2
Almost
are
a triangle of 3 at the top.
a triangle 3. And when you connected them, did you almost kind of like connect the dots, or did you see it as a
Just saw the
shape?
3
Okay. Thank you.
at the top.
There we go.
And then I saw the 2 at the bottom.
2 at the very, very bottom.
Very bottom.
Okay. Vertical.
Vertical.
Thank you.
And then I saw what I thought was a group of 8, but then I counted and it was a group of 7. So I saw the group
Interesting.
of 7 in the middle.
7 in the middle. And tell me more about that, Stacey. Why do you think it was a group of 8 at the start?
I think
I did the
looked,
same
I
thing.
just looked quickly at visually and I saw the 4 really, and then I had to go back and recount
Right.
to make sure it was 7.
Right.
I
And
originally saw the 8.
and perhaps it has
4
something
and
to,
4.
something to do with that middle dot. It might have something to do with that too. Yeah, but Stacey, I'm wondering too, I believe a strategy you have there is you're seeing some doubles.
Yeah, I thought I saw the 4 and the 4. That's what I originally thought. And then I had to go back and count on.
Yeah, and I appreciate the fact that you went back to kind of double check. Absolutely. Another one. Hi, I'm your name.
David.
Hi, David. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. How'd you see those dots?
So I saw that it was symmetrical left to right, so I drew a line all the way down.
Straight vertical
yeah,
line right
straight
down the middle.
vertical.
All right.
And I said that was 4, and then I saw 4 on the left,
Okay.
and if there's 4 on the left, that means there's 4 on the right, so it's symmetrical.
Are you okay if I put a kind of a border around? I'm gonna group those together there. Absolutely. And hovering close to some groups up, so seeing actually 3 groups of 4. And so how many total dots?
12 because there's 3 groups of 4.
Okay. Alright, and again, keeping those up for display. I'm just gonna stop my time there. Anyone give me an estimate? How long do you think that was?
9 minutes.
9 minutes? Yeah, just call it out.
7.
6, 5, 7. Here we go, friends. 5.5. Okay. And so again, this is another interesting aspect to even share with students regarding time. How long do you think that was? And again, interesting that we had a bit of a range there as well. Could I have kept going and pulled out some more strategies? And absolutely. I'm just strategically pausing there, just knowing, just being mindful of our time that we have together. Ask me any questions.
So
Yes,
what if
madam.
there were now 4 other kids that have a strategy?
Yeah.
When you notice really that some of the others are starting to look okay,
Mhm.
these that I don't like to handle, they're not good enough. What is the decision there?
So a decision there would be, perhaps if we are practicing the routine, we're kind of getting into it. I might be good with that, because actually I wanna end on a high note.
Yeah.
If I know that I've got some other learners and you know what, you'll see it, you'll hear it, the kids will be like, oh,
Yeah.
you didn't ask me.
Yeah.
Or can you believe that? Do I maybe say, hey, turn and talk with a friend right now? What did you see? I could also, nothing wrong with bringing out the same dots tomorrow and saying, hey, I think there was a few more people who had some different ideas. So and this is another aspect of number talks, is that we can't fear bringing out the same question. Again, you're also going to engage your learners and know, you know what, if I bring out the same combination, it may not go over so well, right? But there's no fear in trying it out. There's no fear in actually giving it a go. Yes?
I'm wondering if it helps if they see that as an age and something like a robot, because kids are thinking robots and all that sort of thing.
Absolutely. And so what kids begin to work on here are some visualization strategies. So I bet you if we continued on, someone could very well be like, hey, it reminds me of a robot, or it reminds me of a shape. In Stacy's thinking, seeing the triangle, perhaps someone saw another triangle below it. Like there's different ways, and again, for some students who we're gonna know, and we're gonna watch them through gestures, that we are gonna know our students who perhaps are counting one-to-one correspondence. They're you could actually, you can see them, sometimes you can hear them, like 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is about giving some visualization strategies to actually nudge them further. Some students may have subitized the 4 and subitized 3, and even the 2 below. Absolutely. Different ways to show the thinking. So for Nancy, for example, I may want to probe, how did you add up all those numbers? Like what number did you start with?
4.
And then what was your next move?
Doubles of 3 is 6. And then 2.
All right. And I may choose to model that depending on my learners on an open number line. So I might actually choose, as Nancy was describing, that started at 4, and then you mentioned doubles. So actually recognizing that it was a big jump of 6, and then another jump of 2. And I can make that visual. I can make that thinking. And again, for Stacy, I apologize, I never asked how many total dots you had.
I eventually went, I knew 3 and 7 was 10, and then I added on 2.
Right. And what would be really interesting with your thinking is you actually took one away when you realized
When
it
I
wasn't
counted back
8,
and
you
then-
counted back. I can have that conversation and keep that thinking moving, for sure. So thank you for, yes.
How long do you keep the dots uncovered and do you ever cover them up again?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we, I would say at like Molly Brant and Centennial, we've been dabbling quite a bit with drive-through dot talks. Do you want to speak to it, Lindsay?
So at first we were calling it a drive-by, but some people thought it was a negative connotation for Molly Brant. So we changed the name to drive-through. Anyway, so it's a drive-through dot talk now. And what we do is if the weather is nice, I have some giant dry erase boards. They're beside the chart paper, and I'll put the dots on it ahead of time. And my leaders will actually go out of the school and they'll like walk them in front of the window. The kids stay in the classroom and they count them up, and then they walk back in, and then they have to tell us what they saw. And if it's a rainy day, we just do it like, we'll just kind of sometimes flip and go. And so they do have to think about it, and they have to capture that image in their mind. And then I come back like with Courtney with the little dots that are pre-drawn. But the kids, they have a lot of fun with it. They love a good drive-through. They facilitate their own. They're at the point where they're kind of creating their own.
And you can do the same thing without going outside.
No, you don't have to go outside. You can do it across the back of the room. They can just have them kind of go, and then like they get to the end of the wall, flip it.
Sheet of paper, small whiteboard. Yeah, I could put it there and then cover this up again. Just gonna model the exact same formation there. How many dots? And I put a blank slide right after. So I might choose, you know what, folks, like I'm gonna give to you for 10 seconds, and I'm counting to myself. And sometimes, you know, it's also a matter of as kids, this is part of spatial sense as well. And so the idea is that it's malleable. You can continue working on it and build upon it. And I may say to students like, okay, I'm gonna pull it away and I'm gonna bring it back. Because there are some learners that would find that whole situation kind of like anxiety filled, right? We don't want that.
Yeah.
But what we want to do is be able to perhaps build that muscle. We want to build that spatial reasoning type of muscle. Some other ideas, some other moves incorporating dot talks that we could absolutely feel like, okay, this is a very again, you gotta know your kids, you gotta know how you're gonna perhaps use this dot talk, but how could we maybe push it further, perhaps in later primary, junior, intermediate space. And again, being in classrooms with developmental abilities where there needs to be, and the hope is like to build and grow upon, we could start here and then it takes one click here, and how does that change the complexity for some of our thinkers and some of our learners in their space? We're now doubling, all right? And then and again, we could keep this going in order to meet the developmental needs of our students in our space.
And then, like, I went and did some doc talks in kindergarten, where we just left them up because those little bunnies needed to see it. But then I went to the total other end of the spectrum and did some doc talks in our grade 7, 8 classes. And it was interesting because you just had to really think about what number you wanted to have represented. Because then we could pull things like prime numbers and square roots, and get into some concepts that were more relative and applicable for them to be thinking about. But it definitely had to think. I definitely had to think about what number was going to be represented and what did I want to pull out. And for the grade 8s, it was they were doing some square root work. So I hope that came out. It did come out in the doc talk, which was neat for the teacher to see the kids thinking about it in a different way. And it's fun. My guys, I don't really think they think it's math. They cheer. They love it when they see the schedule. There's a doc talk up there. Totally trick them. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Really fun.
and again, it's number talks are a vehicle. It can be very much a gateway to other mathematical learning. But the key thing is that this was low threat. I'm going to feel that all of my learners here had an entry point. And again, it's also a bit more about explaining a little bit more about the routine. And again, just being very, very mindful of time. And you know your kids, and you know how long is too long. And you're going to be able to understand that some days perhaps are a bit longer because of interest, because of attention span, whereas other days you just know, like, we're good, we're done. Usually hovering like less than 15 minutes. And again, different educators are experimenting with facilitating number talks at different parts of the day. So for some individuals who may have that little chunk of time, you know, you've got that phys ed block, and then you got that 15, 20 minute before recess, like, fit it in there. And again, just give it a go, give it a try. Some educators like having it just kind of piggybacking right before nutrition break, because that's actually their cutoff. They don't need a timer because you know that you've got 15 minutes before nutrition break or recess, and therefore that's the time you got. So again, some different ways, some different opportunities there. Number talks are going to fit in the vision for mathematics in Limestone in the fluency and flexibility section. That's where it fits. And again, very, very important to note that we are attempting to give our students an opportunity to be flexible, to obtain accuracy and efficiency within computational knowledge, as well as it can move into operation proficiency as well throughout the years.
What's interesting I've noticed with grade 3, because I'm in 3, 4, is from working with incorporating the doc talks, and just them studentizing and looking at numbers and groups. I'm seeing as we're starting to practice some of the EQAO questions, how they're organizing their thinking on the paper. It's coming out on how they organize their thinking with the doc talks, and it's being translated directly into clear communication. Their answers are better, and it's kind of amazing how it leads into everything.
So now if you want to get up off the carpet and kind of stretch back and head back.